President Obama is trying to prevent thousands of layoff notices from going out a few days before the November election, Senator James Inhofe said on Tuesday. Obama's Labor Department on Monday issued guidance to the states telling them that a federal law requiring advance notice of mass layoffs does not apply to the layoffs that may occur in January as a result of automatic budget cuts, known as sequestration. Inhofe, appearing on Fox and Friends Tuesday morning, said President Obama, through his Labor Department, is trying to intimidate businesses, companies, corporations, not just defense contractors, into not issuing the pink slips, which are required by federal law 60 days before mass layoffs or plant closings. The president doesn't really want all these pink slips going out 5 days before the election, Inhofe said. He noted that if the automatic budget cuts kick in on January 2nd, as they will if Congress can't reach a deficit reduction agreement, layoff notices would have to go in no later than November 2nd. The general election is on November 6th. Under the WARN Act, the Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act, companies with more than 100 employees must give 60 days notice if there is to be a mass layoff during any 30-day period for 500 or more employees. But in guidance issued on Monday, Assistant Labor Secretary Jane Oates said never mind about those pink slips. Quote, questions have recently been raised as to whether the WARN Act requires federal contractors whose contracts may be terminated or reduced in the event of sequestration on January 2, 2013, to provide WARN Act notices 60 days before that date to their workers employed under government contracts funded from sequestrable accounts. The answer to this question is no. In fact, to provide such notice would be inconsistent with the purpose of the WARN Act. In its guidance, the Labor Department also noted that efforts are being made to avoid sequestration, making its occurrence not necessarily foreseeable. End quote. You can't not comply with the law, Inhofe said on Tuesday. Put yourself on the board of directors of Lockheed Martin. If they came out with a class action suit of $1,000 per employee, that would be $120 million. You bet they're going to send out pink slips. And by the way, they don't have to wait until November 2nd. They can send them out today if they want, Inhofe added. Since John McCain and Kelly Ayotte also criticized the Obama administration for the obvious political aim of its guidance on the WARN Act, at a time when our economy continues to suffer from staggering high unemployment, the Obama administration today took away an important planning tool for Americans who may lose their jobs as a result of the failure to Congress and the White House to address the looming and entirely predictable threat of budget sequestration. Sequestration is currently the law of the land, and our nation's workers have a right to know how these sequestration cuts, which begin in January, may impact them, the senator said in a news release. The decision is especially disturbing in light of the fact that the Department of Labor previously stated in a fact sheet that since it has no administrative or enforcement responsibility under the WARN Act, it cannot provide specific advice or guidance with respect to individual situations. Today, the department did just that, issuing guidance to government contractors not to provide their employees advance notification of potential layoffs as a result of sequestration. This is a troubling turnaround that lays bare the obvious political aim of today's announcement, avoiding mass layoff notices just days before the November 6th election. The Senate Armed Services Committee has received letters from 8 defense companies, all of which advise that they will have to lay off thousands, if not tens of thousands of workers, if sequestration occurs. These Americans deserve fair warning that politics in Washington is placing their jobs in jeopardy, McCain and Ayotte said. Under the Budget Control Act of 2011, if Congress can't produce deficit reduction legislation by the end of the year, automatic spending cuts will take effect in 2013, split 50-50 between domestic and defense spending. That amounts to a $500 billion cut to the defense budget over 10 years. In theory, the deep defense cuts were supposed to be so unpalatable that Democrats and Republicans would come together to find other ways to reduce the deficit. The deep defense cuts were supposed to be so unacceptable that they thought our divisive two-party government would come together and work out a budget. I mean, after all, we're talking about national defense here. I guess they really didn't realize just how polarized the two parties are. Well, now they know. Congress has to the end of the year to come up with a reduction plan, but has not come up with a plan yet. And because Republicans has the majority in Congress, don't expect a plan before the election. Therefore, in accordance to the WARN Act, employers of government contractors are mandated to give 60 days advance notice to all employees whose jobs may be lost as a result of the budget cuts. This means notices must be given before November 2nd or 3rd, which is days just before the presidential election. So there's no surprise that the Obama administration is arguing a different interpretation of the WARN Act. The Department of Labor said they are hopeful that Congress will work out something before the end of the year to avoid the automatic cuts. I believe that it is very unlikely that the Republican Congress will come up with a budget cut plan before the elections in November, though they may work out something before the end of the year. It simply is not in the Republicans' political best interest to do so, and it is very obvious that politics takes precedence over the will and safety of the American people in this day and age. One last note in closing. This massive potential cut is yet another example of the austerity measures that is coming to America very soon after the presidential election. Thanks for watching. Peace and love.
Thanks for watching Kingdom Knowledge News.